Guys, we made it to 500 subscribers. Thank you very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. I appreciate it. But anyway, True Crime King back. Still a little sick, but I'm making videos. So, in this video, we're gonna look at how they caught this dude, Bryan Kohberger, where he was at, and all that. So, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's go.
Kohberger, this is his mugshot. It was taken early this morning, because he was arrested early this morning around 3 a.m. Eastern Time in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We have learned
Scranton, Pennsylvania, where they filmed The Office, one of my favorite shows.
that Kohberger is a 28-year-old PhD student in criminal justice at Washington State University.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. I must admit, when I put together this art...
That's his opinion, but okay. Yeah, shout out. I'm using your video to react to this, so...
article, I was under the impression that I had more information than I actually do have, but we do have the answer to the question, how did they match Kohberger's DNA to what they found at the scene? Now, I think it's important to first of all stress that they did find his DNA at the scene.
That's a big one. I mean, so they probably got it from somebody fighting back. It might have been one under one of the girl's fingernails, you know. And if that's how they got it, then those girls solved their own murder, you know. They made sure the killer didn't get away. Because this guy had he was studying criminology, you know. And so he knew what to do. I'm guessing it was from, you know, it was probably under one of the girl's fingernails. Or either that or this dude fucked up big time by leaving his DNA.
If they hadn't, this would have been a much harder case to pursue, If
they hadn't had his DNA, they probably would have never even found this guy or even looked into him as a suspect, you know?
Prosecute, right? So that is actually a big breakthrough, and that is probably something that came through in the last 4 or 5 days, that the DNA results likely came back at around about just before Christmas. And that is actually just before Christmas when the authorities basically started their surveillance in Pennsylvania.
So they started their surveillance just before Christmas. Today's December 31st, 2022. That's it's only a couple days ago, guys.
Yeah. Now, once the connection was made by the Elantra and his DNA, the 20-year-old criminology student, Bryan Kohberger, was seized in a SWAT team raid at his parents' home at 1:30 a.m. It does seem to be quite a sort of simple, I don't want to say grim, but quite a simple residence. And one kind of gets the idea that, especially if the car wasn't his, that Kohberger isn't a particularly well-off student, definitely not a privileged student, certainly not comparable to the kids in the funhouse.
Well, let's think about that for a second. The kids in this funhouse, you know, there was 6 of them, and they're all sharing the rent, you know. So it couldn't have been that expensive to live there. If, you know, you're dividing it 6 ways. And that guy's living in an apartment, probably somewhere around $1,000 to $1,200 a month. So he's probably actually paying more or the same in rent than these guys are. So I don't really agree with that statement. I mean, and the guy has a master's in criminology. I mean, that costs some money. So
in any event, hours after he was seized, he appeared in court. He was arrested on a fugitive from justice warrant, and he was remanded without bond to the Monroe County Correctional Facility. And he's there now awaiting extradition to Idaho. That's according to police. In Idaho, he will face charges of felony burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder. I did say in the live that felony burglary shows he wasn't invited into the house and he was there when some of the victims arrived later. He arrived once they were all asleep and somehow gained access, possibly through that keypad.
Coward. Clown. I want to find out why did he do that, you know? I mean, I don't think it was a coincidence though that Kaylee was gonna leave the next day, you know? I mean, if that had nothing to do with it, then that's a pretty big coincidence, you know? And apparently she had the most injuries. I mean, I want to find out what's all with that. So hopefully when he gets extradited back to Idaho, we'll find out.
And that suggests that he'd had access before. According to the Daily Mail,
Yeah, and I've heard from, you know, online and my subscribers that his sister, Kohberger's sister, lived either next door or real close. And that's how he probably knew this house and knew the girls, you know.
Kohberger has no prior arrests, right? No criminal record. And so it is unclear.
And they say that a lot of guys that commit these crimes, they have no prior record. So it makes it even harder for the police. Like this guy, I mean, he had nothing. And then he goes in, kills 4 people. I mean, we don't know if he did it by himself yet, if he had help. So, you know, I'm holding back my to talk about anybody else or clear anybody else because we don't know if anybody helped him yet. That's a key fact. Remember, when Kohberger got arrested, he said, "Did you arrest anybody else?" And I'm sure the cops are looking into that right now. So let's hold off on that and wait and see what comes out.
How officials got hold of his DNA. So of course we know his DNA was gotten hold of at the crime scene, probably in a mixed sample and probably left in his own blood as well. The question is, how were they able to match his DNA? And we're going to deal with that in this episode. Before we get...
Yeah, because if he didn't have a criminal record, that mean, or if he didn't have a felony, right? Because the police don't take your blood for a misdemeanor. They only take your DNA for felonies. So if he didn't have a felony, then that means his DNA wouldn't be in the police database, right? So yeah, I want to see how they actually matched his DNA.
To that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Welcome to the thousands of you who have subscribed. Welcome to the channel. If you're enjoying this episode, like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. According to WPBF.com, quote, retired Special Agent John McVie told an investigative reporter, Terry Parker, that Kohberger does not have a vehicle registered in his name and, as we said before, no criminal history. And that meant that police were running DNA and fingerprint checks from the crime scene on a national database. And so obviously doing that, Kohberger would not have shown up as a match, right? That includes running the DNA. He wouldn't have come up as a match either. Okay, so how did they find him? Well, we know the Elantra was registered to the address where they nabbed him. So if the vehicle wasn't registered in his name, well, it was registered probably in his parents' name. And it was actually that simple how they were able to actually track, certainly link him to the...
Yeah, nowadays things are more expensive than back when, you know, our parents and grandparents were growing up. So a lot of people have their cars, you know, their parents help buy their cars, so, and they have better credit and shit, so they just put it in their parents' name. That's how millions of people, you know, 40 and under, do it these days. So that's very normal.
The address where he was found. So probably the vehicle belongs to his parents, which maybe means that he doesn't even have his own vehicle. that alone, as I said earlier, gives...
Yeah, if he doesn't even have his own vehicle, then he might be, not well off at all. But if his parents are paying the rent, that's a whole different ballgame. But we don't know.
Gives us potentially very interesting insight into this guy. He might be kind of a down on his luck fella guy who doesn't really have a lot of money, and someone who is looking on at some of the residents of the funhouse as privileged and entitled, and maybe with jealousy, maybe with envy.
Yeah, but you don't go kill somebody over that. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's just a fucking cuckoo. He's a clown, and he needs to, if he's found guilty, he needs to be put down. That's it.
I mean, compare him borrowing a beat-up 10-year-old Elantra to Kaylee buying an almost new Range Rover.
Okay, to be fair, Kaylee didn't buy that Range Rover. Her parents did. So that's the same logic for Kohberger, His parents probably bought him this stuff. But Kaylee's not affording a Range Rover, guys. That's her dad buying that. So I'm sorry, bud, but that has nothing to do with this, or how well off. That's how much money their parents have. Okay.
And jet setting to Europe. But how did they get a DNA match? Well, according to CNN, quote, authorities narrowed their focus to Kohberger after tracing his ownership of the white Hyundai Elantra seen in the area of the killings, according to 2 law enforcement sources briefed on the investigation. Kohberger's DNA has also been matched to genetic material recovered at the off-campus house where the students were stabbed to death, according to the sources. Okay, but how? How did they link it? Now, according to CNN, it's the only source I've been able to find that provides this information. They say genetic genealogy helped investigators identify the suspect.
Okay, so what that means, one of his relatives or him must have done one of them, 23andMe, like you send your DNA in the mail to see who your relatives are and shit. Which a lot of people do these days. So, like, for example, if any of my relatives sent in their DNA to see who their ancestors were to one of these websites, right? And I committed a crime, then they could trace their DNA back to me. Does that make sense?
A source with knowledge of the case said, DNA found in Idaho was taken through a public database to find potential matches for family members, the source said. Now, I don't know whether you would necessarily have family members on a database unless either they've committed a crime.
But yeah, that's a big stroke of luck that somebody, one of his family or him, sent their DNA in. And it says right here, still no weapons found. I mean, they can still convict him without a weapon, but it would make it a lot easier if they did find the weapon and his fingerprints were on it.
Or if they volunteered their DNA in order to trace family history. So I'm not quite sure where that particular statement gets us. Anyway, according to the same article, it says, quote, once potential family matches were found, subsequent investigative work by law enforcement led to the identification of Kohberger, according to the source. Now, if you take that literally, they saw potential family matches, and then they did subsequent investigative work. Now, one wonders what that actually means.
300 interviews, 4,500, there probably 9,000 email tips. That's a lot of shit. You remember there was over 22,000 Hyundai Elantras just in the Moscow, Idaho area. But they found this Elantra. It definitely wasn't registered in the Moscow, Idaho area. Wherever his parents' house is.
Now, what I'm going to
in PA
say here it's my opinion. I certainly haven't read this anywhere, and I don't know it as a fact. But it is possible, while doing surveillance for 4 days, the feds may have gathered DNA samples from the garbage outside the house. What else would they have been doing except...
Yeah, that's a good point, because let's say this guy smokes, right? Throw a cigarette butt out, boom. You go pick it up. That's total legal way to get his DNA. Or when he puts his trash out, you take the trash bag, right? Swab it. Perfectly legal way to get DNA. If the feds were out there for 4 or 5 days, you know, I mean, yeah. So they could have got his DNA that way very, very easily.
Sitting out there and waiting.
But the main key is he left his DNA at the crime scene, or it was underneath one of the girl's fingernails. That's big. That's the whole thing, you know.
One of the other things they could have done is gather DNA samples from the...
It's a pretty good chance they would have never caught this guy if they did not find his DNA at that scene. So, huge.
Garbage, including from his
It's a good day.
Parents. They could also have gone via the route that he took from Washington all the way to Pennsylvania.
Look at that guy. What's he looking at, huh? Come on, man.
More than 2,000 miles. And I don't think they did this, but another way they could have retrieved DNA is following the route and then looking at the garbage he left there. Unlikely, but that would have been an alternative. And so what they possibly did was via this route, getting the garbage from the family home, they might...
Okay, yeah, here's... People are saying he posted it on Reddit. So this is... Hello, my name is Brian, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense, with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included after the open-ended section as to best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. Okay, so that is what he posted on Reddit, okay? Just so everybody understands.
Have actually found his parents' DNA or even his DNA, and then ran a test to that. Once it gave a bingo to what was found at the crime scene, well, case closed.
Oh, and another thing I found out, so no sexual assault took place. So that's one good news in this case.
Now, as I say, I don't know for a fact whether this is what they did do, but what is very interesting is there are certain legal prescriptions around police rummaging through your trash and collecting your DNA through a warrantless collection, right? Police may not need a warrant to rummage through your trash.
Now, once you throw your trash out, that's public, man.
But according to certain information that I've seen, warrantless collection of DNA is unconstitutional. Did that happen here? Well, we don't know. Going back to the article, the suspect drove...
Doesn't matter. This guy's screwed now. No matter how they got it, you know.
Across country in the white car to his parents' house, according to another law enforcement...
This guy and whoever helped him, you know. If someone did, which apparently it seems like there might be someone, or at least one other person. But we'll wait and see.
Enforcement source. Sometime right before Christmas, right, this is the vital part, right before Christmas, we were zeroing in on him being in or going to Pennsylvania. So that suggests that they were actually tailing him. And that's another way they could have picked up his DNA, is if they were following him, and if he stopped to have a meal somewhere, they could then seize a discarded cup or something and also test that for DNA. So The other thing that's technically quite interesting is I was actually right about them catching this guy, certainly closing in on this guy before Christmas, right?
Yeah, but you said that after he was caught, you know. No one talked about this dude before he was caught. If someone did, put it in the comments and put the source down. Thank you.
Going back to the article, while he was being watched, investigators from the Moscow PD, from the Idaho State Police Homicide Bureau, and the FBI worked with prosecutors to develop sufficient probable cause to obtain the warrant. Once the arrest warrant was issued, the Pennsylvania State Police and FBI made the arrest. It's hard to believe, but Kohberger actually attended class in a sort of business-as-usual fashion a few days after the murder.
Okay, I think he might, if he entered into this first floor, right? Why did he pass both roommates on the first floor? We know the steps that go upstairs are all the way over by the front door, not by this glass door to go up, because we saw the steps in the body cam when the police went over for the noise complaint, right? So it would make more sense for him to use the ladder that's on the side of the house, go up and come in through the second floor sliding door, not through this one. But who knows? I mean, this guy is a psycho, a crazy, and he's sneaking or tiptoeing through the night. Ugh.
Before driving home for the holidays, that's according to the Seattle Times, that he was a graduate student at the Pullman campus, that's about 8 miles from the Funhouse, and he actually attended classes and finished the semester at WSU.
So yeah, he's going to college like a 10-minute drive, 8 miles away from this house. That's not far at all. So I'm sure he's seen these girls, or he knows them, or his sister knows them. Okay. So but we don't know the extent of it yet.
After the slayings, that's according to a former classmate. So Kohberger was actually in class and finished the semester after the killings. So we are quickly finding out more about Kohberger, the who of this guy. Relatives say he was OCD about veganism, and some people said that he looked as though he was on drugs while he was attending school.
He looks crazy in his mugshot. I mean, have you guys go back and go down to one of my other last videos? Look at his mugshot. His eyes look empty, you know, just like there's all these other serial killers. When you look in their eyes, you can tell they have no soul. You know, I mean, it's just fucking creepy, man.
It's unconfirmed as yet, but a former friend has said on TikTok, and this was actually picked up on News Nation as well, that when she knew him, and she provides a few photos of herself with Kohberger in the background, I think she's also had a wedding with him.
Wouldn't that be creepy now if you were friends with this guy and you have pictures with him behind you, now knowing that he stabbed to death 4 people? That's fucking creepy, man.
He was a heavy heroin user.
Oh, wow. So Kohberger was a big, huge heroin user. That's big.
That may be how, when he...
Who knows? I'm not accusing these girls of using drugs, but they might have, they might have experimented or dabbled a little bit. We don't know. I mean, apparently there wasn't any drugs in their system when they were killed. But, you know, who knows? There are a lot of theories online from people saying that it was drug-related, so we'll just have to wait and see what comes out.
He looked into the abyss of crime and criminal justice. It looked back at him, and dark fantasies began weaving and spinning in a twisted mind and heart. Thank you for listening.
All right, guys, so that's it. That's some good information there. Hope you guys learned something. Took something away from this video. But I'll see you guys soon. True Crime King, out.